I'm Amy from Doodle Dog Designs.
I really like the look of the antique Campfire Marshmallow tins.
I have looked for one in my area, and every time I see one, it's always more than I want to spend for one. So I decided I was going to try to make a faux Campfire Marshmallow tin. And I found a tin that's shaped more like this, the taller and skinnier. So I found this tin, and it has the red lid and the red bottom, which goes really well with the Campfire Marshmallow logo. At first I was going to paint the whole thing, but I think even this background part is a nice color, so I'm hoping I can just cover up the Santa with my logo. So I purchased this digital file off of Etsy. I'll put a link in the description below for it. I printed the PNG file. It came with 3 different files, but I printed the PNG file, and I printed it once at 100%, and it was too big for my tin, so I changed it and printed it at 80%, and it was the right size. And I also went to the media and quality print screen, and I selected best quality, and there was quite a bit of difference in the way that the image turned out when I printed it with the better quality. I'm going to make some grunge mixture. I've got about 1/2 of a cup of hot water, and I have some instant coffee, and I'm going to add a tablespoon of instant coffee. Mix that up. And I'm going to add some cinnamon. About a teaspoon of cinnamon. Okay, so the first time I tried this, I printed out my label and I Mod Podged it onto my can, and then I tried to grunge it with my grunge mixture that I just made, and the printed lettering smeared really bad. So I was able to scrape it all off, and now I'm going to take a blank piece of paper, and I've got a pan here, flat pan that it will slide through and fit in. That's the cinnamon. I'm gonna mix that in good. Okay, now I'm going to take my paper and I'm going to slide it through the liquid mixture here, and I'm going to grunge it before I print it. So, and then that way I won't have letters that are smeared. And I'm just going to set it on a towel and let it dry completely before I run it through the printer. Paper dried, and I did press it. If you're going to press it, you should be sure to use a pressing cloth so you don't get anything on your iron. Be sure to brush off any excess loose cinnamon before you run it through your printer. And now I'm going to trim it down to the right size. So I want my label to fit in here. So about 6.5 inches. So this is 4 3/4 inches.
So subtracting 4 3/4 from 6 1/2 gives me 1 3/4. So I'm going to put an inch border on the top and 3/4 inch border on the bottom. So I'm going to measure an inch up from the top here. I'm going to fold right on that line. And I'm going to tear it. I would prefer to tear rather than cut, just to give the edge a little bit of a softer look to it. And then I will go down 6 1/2 inches from the top. Make marks again for the bottom. This doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, now I'm going to trim, do the same thing on the edges, just trim off the very edge a little bit, especially since my printer got a little bit of black ink there on the edge of the paper. I don't really want that left on my project here. This is a little bit more, so I'll see how much I can get off of it. It's going to get the majority of that black ink off, and so I will just do a little bit more grunging over that spot after I get it on. Check my fit. It looks like it's going to fit nicely right there. Now I'm going to use some Mod Podge. This is Mod Podge with a matte finish. I'm going to put Mod Podge on the back of the label. Okay, now if you painted your tin, you want to make sure that you have the seam on the tin to the back. For me, that's easy because I know I want to cover up this Santa. Make sure that I have completely covered. Then I'm going to work on making sure that I get all the air bubbles out. Try to get the wrinkles out. I know it won't be perfect, but I can try to get most of them out. I'm going to put the Mod Podge over the top of the label now to seal it on. Now I have the Mod Podge over the entire label now, and I am going to take some cinnamon and I'm going to pour some in the lid so I can just grab a little bit. Sometimes if you try to sprinkle it, it can come out in globs. I don't want globs. Now I'm going to let this dry. I set this outside. It's a nice breezy day and it dried really fast. Unfortunately, it did leave a few bubbles that weren't there when I set it outside. So I don't know if drying it too fast created the bubbles or if that would have happened anyway. Probably not near as noticeable when it is set on a shelf as it is to me right up close to it. So now I've got some instant coffee and I'm going to pour a little bit out in the lid. And I want to crumble it up. Right now it's fairly big chunks and I want little tiny granules. So I'm going to just smush it around with my fingers to get it nice and small. I'm going to take the Mod Podge again, and I've got a small brush, and I'm going to brush around the areas where I want it to look rusty. So around the top, for sure. I don't really want to go up above this ledge. It would make the lid harder to get on. And then I'm going to take this instant coffee that I made finer and sprinkle it over the Mod Podge. And I want to have a little bit of Mod Podge poured into something else. I'm just going to use this aluminum pie tin. Because what I'm going to do now is going to get my paintbrush messy, so I don't want to dip that back into the Mod Podge. So you can see already it's starting to, the coffee is starting to kind of melt into the Mod Podge. I'm going to put more Mod Podge over the top of it. And that will really help to melt that coffee into the finish and make it look like rust. Again, I'm going to keep it from being up there. I will just wipe that off. To do a fairly thin layer of it right here at the edge of the label. think I'm going to go down a little bit further into this area, make it look rusty also. I don't really want it to be just right along the edges of my label. I don't think that would look very realistic. Oops. Wrong order. Going to now let that dry and see how it looks. And while I'm waiting, I'm going to do a little bit of rust along the edges of this lid. I don't think I want it all the way around, just one little spot there, I think, for the lid. Be sure to click the like button and subscribe below. I'll see you next time. Bye.